And yeah, I mean, normally what I'd be doing is just running through this and taking all the notes I can, but I think it's much easier to just kind of work through this on video with you guys and see what we can come up with. Let's...
The Super Mario Maker 2 game.
Yeah.
We'll be releasing the last major update soon.
Okay, so final major update. This comes, what is it, like 10 months after the original release? That seems like a pretty quick turnaround time in terms of the schedule being very compressed, but the more time we have to play with the new elements, the better.
Now, let's go. This mushroom here is a little different. If Mario picks it up, he'll become Super Mario Bros. 2 Mario.
Okay, so looks like this is going to work pretty much like the Master Sword. It is only going to be SMB1. Every style is getting its own novelty, of course. And yeah, SMB1 only, I imagine that it's going to function kind of like the Master Sword in terms of the power-up status for Mario, so. Everyone mentioned on the forums that apparently to put out everything they were working on due to COVID-19. Yeah, that would kind of make sense. I really doubt that that decision in terms of SMB2 would have been done in a time crunch. I kind of have my doubts about that. I think this is the kind of thing that would have been planned and tested over a much longer period of time. It's not the kind of thing you just rush out as cut content because of all the interactions that it has to have with the existing parts, particularly because it's something that is working with elements in the standard style. And presumably because it has to work with all the existing other SMB1 power-ups as well. So for example, if you are using bombs with Link, then SMB2 Mushroom has to interact with the Link Bomb, for instance. Like, that stuff takes a lot of time in testing, and I don't believe that they would just, cut or rework a mode just as a virus response, just for that reason. The big thing is that you can almost switch styles since it's power-up. Yeah, that's pretty much how it's going to work. I mean, a lot of people did complain about that when it came to Link, like, not turning Mario into Link full-time, but there are a lot of possibilities with just using that as a kind of key, almost, where, you get Link and you can do certain things. You get the SMB2 Mushroom and you can do certain things. Let's actually play the video onwards to see what some of those could be.
Ride on enemies and throw them at will.
Okay, so the immediate question that comes up with this is which enemies can actually be ridden. That's something that I think people will test right away in terms of what he's going to take damage from and what he can sit on safely. I think that will probably be quite similar to, what the existing damage sources are. But, yeah, there are a couple of enemies that I think would be fairly interesting to just sit on like that and throw. We only see the Goomba falling into a pit here, so we don't know what kind of interaction it will have as a thrown object, like whether it will hit blocks, whether it will act as a shell, whether, say, killing a Goomrat by throwing it will split it. Lots of things that you can do depending on how the kill interactions already work with the various enemies. And they show a bonsai build later in the video being ridden on. Yeah, that would be really interesting. Given that, oh, did I skip ahead by it?
Flying enemies, even chain chomps
Yep,
are fair
Bullet
game.
Bill. Bullet Bill, yeah, I haven't seen bonsai
You
Bill
can
yet.
even throw snow.
We were going through this maybe a bit fast. Let's actually back up a bit. So, Big Buzzy we know can ordinarily be ridden anyway, and would presumably break the hard blocks as usual. Yeah, we see that. Breaks a hard box, collects the key. Yeah, interesting. Look at the bill, where when he throws it, it continues on a new projectile path. So you can basically use this power-up to adjust the height that a bullet is firing at. So you can create, puzzles with platforms of a new height, for instance.
Flying enemies, even chain chomp.
Yeah, there totally was a height adjustment there. Like if you saw, picked up the bill, just kind of moved it down to Mario height. Actually see precisely what height that is. Okay. Alright, just gonna roll this again. Okay, so Mario is standing. Mario does a standing throw. Bill goes about 3 tiles ahead. Of course, there's a bit of a running throw. And goes at the level of Mario's lower tile, so by his feet.
Flying enemies, even chain chomps, are fair game.
Interesting that the chain chomp stumps are interactable here. This is... wow, that's actually really fascinating. Given that the chomp... Yeah, as you can see here, you can just kind of use it as a
Chomps are fair game.
forward weapon. Now, look at that. See how when you are carrying the stump, the chomp actually clips through Mario safely. That might just be part of the initial pickup animation. But given the way that chain chomps tend to project from the stump along the diagonal, look at that. He's actually invulnerable to the chomp itself while holding the stump. And that seems to be something quite new and interesting. Because you can basically just use the chomp, you know, as a moving ball and chain of sorts. Would be kind of interesting to see what else you can do with this. Like, you basically approach the stump safely and do a pickup, and you can move it, and you could use the chomp elsewhere as something like a bounce platform if you pick up the boot or the dry bone shell. Which is an interesting question, by the way. We don't know how SMB2 Mushroom interacts with any other power-ups in the way that Link can ride the boot and the dry bone shell, I'm pretty sure, but not interact with the helmets, as far as I recall. Or, oh no, I think he does, actually. I've been playing so many levels lately, I can't get this stuff straight.
Are fair game. You can even throw...
Yeah. Using lone stumps like the mushroom blocks? Pretty much, yeah. You'd have to do the standard setup where you blow up the chomps when the stumps spawn. I know that one thing that everybody kind of requested was, you know, can we just spawn the stump without the chomp? Because everybody wants to use that, and because of the chain chomp RNG, sometimes that's just really fussy to set up. I mean, there are reliable ways to set it up, but they take up a lot of entity limit because you need to use some things like flying block squishing bombs and so on. And that just eats right into your budget. So we see SMB2 Mario picking up the snowball, like you normally pick up a snowball. I don't know if...
Snowballs in snow-themed courses.
Anything
the
that
frog
different?
suit lets you become Frog Mario.
Actually, let's see the snowball bit again and listen to what it said. Back up.
You can even throw snowballs in snow-themed courses.
Oh, let's look at that. That he just plucks out of the ground like a turnip. Like, I mean, I guess that was the news item here. And that adds a substantial amount of power to what you do in the snow theme, other than just having everything be slippery and have all the spike balls be snowballs. That actually adds a ton of flexibility and will also probably be a total nightmare to playtest, but...
Snow-themed courses. The frog suit lets you become Frog Mario.
Great addition.
It lets you swim through water with ease and run across its surface.
Great addition. Look at this, look at this. I know you said earlier, Theoremon, that you were quite excited about that.
Run across.
And yeah, notice that it's doing it on a moving water level. There's no evidence that you'd be able to do that with like poison or lava, and I would not expect would be able to, because, you know, you are using your feet. Would be interesting as well to see what the priority would be like with something like the... Well, with something like the boot, like with Kuribo's shoe, like you wouldn't be able to do that kind of dash anyway, so you would just sink, I would assume. Just an interesting question, because, you know, with the dry bone shell, like, that still gives you poison and lava and kind of differentiates their power that way.
surface. The power balloon.
Okay. So I actually just replayed all of Super Mario World last week and actually didn't struggle with Tubular as much as I thought I would. I love the new sprite here, that it's much more directional than the original sprite for Tubular, which is just, Floppy Mario facing one way and floating. This seems like it actually works like a swimming interaction. Like, look at him bob and change directions. It basically gives him swimming power. Now, the natural question that follows from that is, first of all, what does this do underwater? Like, does it give him additional speed? Does it give him anything? Secondly, does this allow you to take a hit, or rather, what does it do when you take a hit? Do you just lose the power up and fall? Because of course, like in the original implementation of the P balloon in Super Mario World, like you take a hit and you just die, right? Like it doesn't actually give you any protection. I would assume that this just lets you fall, but
Balloon lets
let's
you
actually
float
watch
with
this.
the fluffy grace only a balloon can muster.
Yeah, we don't actually see him get hit there. So that's definitely one question right away. So what happens water? What happens in the themes where you already have a difference between Mario's physics and the enemy's physics? So for example, in the Night Castle theme where Mario is already able to swim, does the P balloon do anything interesting at all? Is it permanent or does it expire? That's a very good question. Given that on one hand it is marked with a P, and of course that's how it worked in the original as well. And on the other hand, there isn't an existing power-up in all of Mario Maker that works like that. Like there actually are not any timed power-ups currently. So this would in fact be the first one if that were the way it worked. And like the original functioning of the power balloon, along with the fact that it's still marked with a P, makes that, I think, a very, very interesting question to investigate, like whether or not it's timed. How many seconds do we actually see in this? We don't see the timer, of course, because it's blocked.
With the fluffy grace only a balloon can muster.
Seems like it goes for
Glide
quite a
through the
while.
sky.
Okay, this is actually pretty much exactly setup of one of the actual levels in SMBU, as I recall. Like one of the last levels, in fact, is pretty much exactly this. This might be a pretty close recreation.
As Flying Squirrel Mario.
Yeah, Flying Squirrel's a lot of fun, but they don't really show any kind of interaction with it in terms of anything else you can do other than glide. I think it will be kind of interesting in NSMB because like the propeller right now is just so situational that even though it's one of the things that distinguishes NSMB as a theme, you don't actually see it used that much simply because it breaks too much stuff or it doesn't work with a lot of things. Like you can't spin jump safely onto things like when you're using the propeller. And so just having something else that is NSMB exclusive that is just generally more usable, I think, is going to be quite noticeable. It is too bad that we don't have other NSMB era staples like the penguin suit, particularly because of the existing fire and ice physics interactions that are already in the game. That's just kind of too bad. Particularly because this is the final major update, but I think the Acorn could have some interesting potential, depending on how it is implemented. I kind of wonder, and I don't remember in NSMBU how it works with held items, like whether you can collide with held objects. I didn't think you could, but it's been a couple years since I last played NSMBU, so I just do not remember. And, held power-ups work so uniquely in Mario Maker anyway.
Take out surrounding enemies in one throw with a boomerang.
Okay, now this is fantastic. This is, of course, 3D World exclusive. Interestingly, you have the boomerang power-up, but unless it's later in the trailer and I just forgot, no boomerang brothers or boomerang bros, as it were. I might be wrong about that, but who knows? Like, I didn't think I saw them. But anyway, you have boomerang interaction. I actually do wonder if you can jump on the boomerangs as a self-made platform. You know, because it would basically work like Cappy. Doesn't seem to show that though. It just shows you the damage
boomerang
interaction, which I would assume that it works the way a lot of projectiles do. So bullies, it would probably push them. Switches, it would almost certainly hit switches. And yeah, it would have been quite nice to get fire and boomerang other styles, but yeah, because I think one of the things that Mario Maker 2 in general definitely could always have used more of is just enemy variety. I mean, we've got tons of interactions as it is, but of course 3D World, with the lack of stacking, so on, like there is only so much you can do with the enemies as is. But it seems like, you know, they're really leaning into the expressivity of Mario's moveset.
A few slightly weird wearables also.
Okay. All 3D World classics. Okay, so this guy here fires the cannon, you know, as in all those Bowser train stages. This guy here, propeller with the coins. Red POW. Now, does this work? I mean, because of the color coding, I would assume that it's kind of a ranged POW like the other ones. This is camouflage, like in the, what is it? All the 3D World levels where you're kind of disguised from the other Goombas. Which is great. You'll actually be able to make stealth. And Bullet Bill, it shows off later. So let's walk through this and see the implementation. So here's the cannon box. We see it blowing up the sting bees, of course, as you would expect.
The cannon box lets you fire.
Interesting implication here is that in multiplayer, not that I've ever really played much multiplayer, if it works like 3D World, the cannon box would also serve as a platform, like a safe platform to load other players. I think hardly anybody's ever really designed for co-op in this game, simply because of the trouble with sharing and testing those levels, but I think that actually has a ton of co-op potential. If it works the way I would expect. I think it almost certainly just works as a safe platform.
Cannonballs from your face.
Okay, so interestingly, we saw, yeah, it just collide with the coin, and did it just stop? I think it did. Yeah, so it collides with the coin and stops. So this is interesting because there are very few, maybe no actual collisions with coins that I can think of in the game. Like, cannons don't work that way. I don't think bullets work that way. Like, this is the only thing I can think of in the game where something actually stops at a coin. And, like, there's some really interesting stuff you could do with that. Like, have a passage that is coin blocked. You know, where you need to hit a switch on the other side or something with a cannonball, or hit something. The cannonballs, of course, we confirmed that they pass through clear pipes. And yeah, you could set up some kind of puzzle where you need to hit a POW block somewhere to drop the coins, or, well, I mean, if you can just hit them with the cannon and drop the coins, but like you can use it as some kind of timer-based puzzle where you can only fire so many shots, right?
Charge up for long-range shots.
That's nice range. Did we see the standard range? I think it's just a faster shot, right? It doesn't actually disappear. Let's
Charge up for long.
Oh, it does disappear. Look at that. So you got like maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, that makes me wonder. Maybe it doesn't stop at the coin. Maybe it is actually just at the end of its range as a projectile. But this is interesting because that implies, if we compare this to the next shot of how the cannon box works, that you fire a certain range, it goes in a pipe, and then its maximum range actually resets and extends. I think that's how it works. Is that like going in the pipe gets it to start at range 0 again. And look at a shot here. It actually overlaps with the coin. It doesn't collide with the coin. The reason that this is stopping is not because of a collision, but because it's at the end of its range. So theoretically, if you fired a charge shot into this pipe, given the setup that we have here, this cannonball should start from the position at the exit, go about double the length, and then explode. Like if you tried it with a charge shot, I bet that's what would happen. Like position 0 here, and extend all the way to the left.
Charge
Yeah,
up.
it doesn't actually hit the coin, as you can see. It just lands on that spot.
For long-range shots.
And yeah, it's pretty much exactly double that range. Oh, thank you for the follow, by the way.
Raise your elevation up to...
Okay, so here's propeller box. Basically gives you an analogous power to the propeller suit. And again, like the other boxes, I assume that people can stand on it safely in multiplayer, and you might be able to lift objects with it. Which is an interesting implication in general, actually, that you would be able to maybe drop objects safely on Mario and have him carry them, but unless they just do damage to him, but I'm thinking, like carrying trampolines or something like that might be interesting. With this and a cannon box.
3 times higher than usual by jumping with the propeller box.
That's one of the first things that would be worth trying, I think, because like so much of the entire 3D world style is based on hard collisions. Like, would you be able to just have some kind of object that is held by Mario and you just have to fly around and position yourself?
You can rush back down, too.
Okay, this is a very important confirmation that wall jumps do work with the boxes on. There are in the NSMB style, like there's some weirdness that goes on with the wall jump state when it comes to using the propeller suit. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but there's something that it does to wall jumps that is a bit unconventional. Very important to know that that actually functions. Is it based on a spin jump input or a standard jump input, though? That's a good question. Because it looks like, yeah, you see, he's going to do a standard wall jump, and it looks like it's probably spinning the way that you normally do a twirl in order to project yourself upwards. I think that's what's going on. Yeah, you see, it's basically a twirl move. Okay, so now we see the POW block, and we see that it's going to work like the red POW here in terms of being range-based, I think.
The red POW box.
Yeah, it's basically a moving and, more importantly, reusable red POW block.
On your head, you can unleash a POW. It's good for 3 uses.
Oh, it's good for 3 uses. Okay. So there are definitely going to be designs that sort of force you to budget that, I think. That, they'll try to trick you into some kind of accidental collisions, but you actually do have to save the POW and mentally count, whether it's usable. Which is interesting because you could kind of use that like a system with 3 failure points, for instance, where like you need to escort the POW to the end and you just need to activate the POW once, but you have 2 chances to make mistakes, for instance. That would, of course, require some kind of setup that forces you to let go of it. And actually, that's an interesting question in general. Like, how to make setups when the POW is usable 3 times and when a POW is so versatile in terms of destroying things. Like, if you have a setup in the next room that requires Mario to drop the POW suit, like require him to drop the box, it would be interesting to think about how to set that up. And that's going to be something that people will work out fairly quickly, I think, but as a debugging question, that's pretty important. A more forgiving don't jump level. Yeah, I think that is That's definitely got some potential. Okay, so we can see the range there. I think it is just the usual range that you get on the red POW block. Yeah. Okay, so now let's see our little stealth kit in action. I think Boom Boom will just kind of ignore you, right?
Wear a Goomba mask to become one with the Goombas and fool your foes.
So, look at that. We just had a very elegant stealth level solution patched into Mario Maker. Like, that is going to be fantastic, because right now it is actually kind of difficult to do like actual stealth designs without, having things that are kind of based on facing, like using boo trickery and such, but something that actually behaves as stealth and manipulates enemy behavior that's based on sight lines. That is going to be wonderful. Particularly when you think about like some enemies where the patterns really do change based on whether they detect you. Sting bees are definitely a good example, for instance. Like sting bees, like whether they pursue you horizontally is kind of based on sightline. Bullies, whether they run towards you, I think is based on sightline. Flying bullies, which I've used before, of course, they kind of work based on sightline when it comes to how far up they will fly. Skip squeaks are going to be a very interesting question, I think. Like, if you're wearing the Goomba mask, do they respond to jumps? That's not really based on sight, but, like, it is based on detecting Mario's positioning, so a lot of stuff you can try out with this. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid level, yeah, especially with all of the other boxes that you can hide in, not just the Goomba mask, but, having quite a wide range of weaponry at disposal. So yeah, look at this. So Thwomps are going to ignore him. Let's watch.
Crouch down and you'll be even more convincing.
I don't know if the crouching is actually necessary, but look at how he's actually still walking forward though while he's crouching. Like, I wonder what the input is like for that.
Foes. Crouch down and you'll be even more convincing.
Interesting. So I think when you crouch, like, unless it's a down diagonal input, it looks like it activates a kind of forward walk in the same way that pressing down with the Link Master Sword activates the Pegasus boots, right? Like, you hold down and then it activates this pattern. Like, I wonder then if there are two separate detection states, because it says that you're going to be even more convincing. And oh yeah, you totally can crouch walk. Yeah, I prefer bagels. Thank you for reminding me of that. You totally can. Good to see you back, by the way. Enjoyed your submission this afternoon. Yeah, you totally can crouch walk. That's true. But it says that you'll be even more convincing. So I wonder if there are two different stealth states, like a kind of normal stealth and a super stealth, and how that would affect whether, say, thwomps are going to react to you. Like, so for example, normally when you run underneath, are you going to be hit by a thwomp? Or maybe it's just an aesthetic remark, like that you look more convincing because you look more convincing. Might not be anything mechanical.
Don the Bullet Bill mask to gain the power of...
Okay, watch this. So it looks like you can drop a bit and reactivate it. So let's see this from the initial jump. Okay, he's going to jump. I would assume that it's, again, with the twirl button, and then the question is, what kind of input is it to let go?
The Bullet Bill mask to gain the power of horizontal flight.
I don't know if that is based on timing, as in, like, you can only go so far for such a distance before you drop off, or if Mario is actually doing some kind of input. So we need to watch that a little further, I think, because it does show us a little more video.
Fly as much as you'd like while time remains.
Okay, so fly as much as you like while time remains. Now that's interesting because of what we said about the power balloon earlier in the level, that For the first time, we actually are seeing timed power-ups in Mario Maker. Now, the fact that they implemented a timed power-up in 3D World for the Bullet Bill Mask tells me that it's quite possible that the P balloon in Super Mario World works the way we thought we thought it would, and like in the original game, where it is also something that's based on a timer. So let's back up and see. It actually shows us the release at the end of this timer.
Fly as much as you'd like while time remains.
Yeah, look, so you can do a lot of minor positional adjustments here and there. Oh, you know what I think it is? It looks like it's probably a held input, like it would be kind of a hold this button, like hold the twirl boot button to boost. Because if you look at Mario let up, like it is like you're letting up on the gas and then triggering it again. Like if you look at the very subtle drop around that corner, I think that's the way it's
Much as you'd
working.
like while time remains.
It's a very subtle drop, so I think it's actually, yeah, that does look like what the input must be. Hold the trigger or something. Hold the trigger or hold the button, probably the trigger, to just kind of pump the gas. Notice that you can only ever boost and drop when you let up. You can't actually gain height beyond your initial jump, which I think will lead to some interesting challenges in terms of like figuring out how to sustain height. Let's watch the Bullet Bill Mask again because I want to see if we
Mask
can
to
pick out
gain
anything
the
else.
power of horizontal flight. Fly as much as you'd like while time remains.
Now, it doesn't show us the collision. I would assume that it works like a bullet does normally and would interact with objects the way that bullets do generally in 3D World. In terms of hitting switches, hitting exclamation blocks, well, basically just colliding with everything. It would be interesting to see what that would successfully clip through or blast through without destroying the suit, and what would destroy the suit. But that's something that I think should be just tested against how bullet bills already work style. So let's take a look at the Koopalings.
The 7 elite.
Okay, so we see them, of course, in their SMB styles. Let's just see their projectiles.
Members.
So yeah, you got Lemmy here with a triple projectile as well as the ball. Looks like some of them fire singles, like you see Larry over here. No, that's Iggy, right? Yeah, Iggy, Larry. Iggy here firing just a single projectile. They look color-coded as well. Notice, in terms of entity limits, that you can, at least we know, have one of each. Wonder if you can have multiples of any of them, the way that you currently can have 3 Bowser Juniors and 5 Boom Booms, and whether there is one total budget for all Koopalings, or if it's like a separate budget per Koopaling. Are you limited to, for instance, 1 each, or are you limited to 7 total, but you can mix and match, or what's going on? Like, I think trying that out is going to be pretty important. Yeah, the fact that you can have all 7 in a subworld. Actually, can you have all 7? I count 6. Right? Unless I'm missing something, I count 6. Are we missing Roy, or is that Roy on the top middle? No, that is Roy on the top middle. Oh no, it's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I can't count. And yeah, one of each sounds like it's probably going to be what happens. I love that Lemmy is on the ball. Lemmy is always on the ball. Well, in SMB anyway. Let's see how he does the other ones. I also wonder. I mean, I doubt you can stuff them into pipes because you can't do that already with Junior or Boom Boom or any of the other mini bosses. What's unclear to me as well is whether they are in 3D World, because we already have Boom Boom and Pom Pom there, and we've actually never had these guys in 3D World. It doesn't say anything, but it usually doesn't say anything does it with the standard styles. Let's actually keep watching the video. Maybe I missed something.
The 7 elite members of Bowser's army are...
Notice how Wendy still fires the O kisses. I'd actually totally forgotten until I replayed Super Mario World that she is technically Wendy O Koopa.
ready for duty.
Oh, notice Lemmy's ball over here. Look at that bounce. Let's watch that bounce again. Look at Morton's ground stomp as well.
7 elite members of Bowser's army are ready for duty.
There is way too much stuff to watch there. Let's actually watch them individually, and maybe we can go back to that like after we know. Yeah, so not compatible with Super Mario 3D World game style. So this is only in the standard styles. Oh, you know what would be really, really interesting? I would think that if you are in SMB2, like in the suit in the SMB1 style, I'm going to try to pick up Lemmy's ball, because that would basically work like a Birdo fight, right? Like just pick the thing up and throw it back at him. Well, let's watch the Koopalings first, and then I'll talk a bit more about them.
Larry, Wendy, Morton, Lemmy.
Okay, we gotta take this slowly.
Larry.
Okay, let's see Larry's projectile in NSMB. See if it's actually the same.
Larry.
Watch him. It is not. So, it looks like, as with Junior and Boom Boom, that each of them will have a different pattern in every game style. As you can already see, Larry fires the triple projectile in SMB3. Like, they're actually each going to follow the original game pattern, which raises a very, very interesting question. Oh, the Japanese trailer has custom Super Mario World sprites written. Oh, interesting. Okay. You can see that. We'll have to maybe take a look at that later. But yeah, so obviously the question that is on our minds is, how are each of them going to behave in SMB1? The way that Boom Boom was very simply reverse engineered to just kind of wave his arms at you and run left or right. Yeah, unfortunately, my chat doesn't allow links, but Theoremon, if you want to whisper that to me or something, I can dig that up.
When?
But we'll just watch the whole thing through first and just finish talking about this video, and then we'll see what's going on the Japanese side. Yeah, okay, let's watch the rings here. Once again, I mean, obviously in Super Mario World originally Wendy was just in the pipe, so this is actually something totally new. Let's see if there's some kind of deflection that's going on. Yeah, look at that. Bounces off terrain. Bounces off ground blocks. Now, here is a good question. First of all, notice how you know that you have two projectiles that are live at the same time. You know that this one glowing just disappears with time. You know that the projectiles deflect off of terrain. Now, the question is, this is, of course, a ground tile. What do the projectiles do? Like, in terms of interacting with other pieces. Do they activate switches? Do they die when they collide with something that it actually hits and activates? Like, you know, does it do friendly fire with enemies or not? Ton of stuff to work out with this. Like, basically, what kind of projectile behavior is this? Because we don't really have much that does a straight angular deflection other than Super Ball. Like, we don't have enemy parts currently that will have Super Ball behavior. Theoremon, just use my name. I'll just type in chat. Maybe that's easier. One moment. Had a little emote from a level that I'm sure you remember if you've played it. which I know you have because I think one of you got the first clear. Okay, so we have now an enemy projectile that deflects. Anyway, let's go on.
Morton.
Okay, so Morton does the same thing that the big Hammer brothers do in terms of doing the stun. I think Junior does that too. There is now so much stuff in this game. Even as somebody who's played hundreds of hours, I can't keep everything straight. Notice the projectiles going off to both sides. I thought I had seen, when we saw all 7 of them earlier, that he actually ejected flame from his feet or something. Let's see that.
7 elite members of Bowser's army are ready for duty.
Yeah, look at that. So you can see here that Morton, also an NSMB, did the stomp, and he ejected fire both sides. So what does that tell us? That tells us that each of these guys actually has more than one damage pattern. If, of course, as mini bosses, they take 3 hits, as mini bosses and their original forms always did, that actually tells us that, kind of like Boom Boom, depending on how many hits they have taken, they may actually change their pattern and change what they do. Because you see Morton do the ground stomp fire projectiles here. You see Morton doing something quite different here.
Morton. Lemmy.
With the... yeah, he's breathing fire, like he's not ejecting it from his feet. Yeah, got that money, I was thinking that too. Like, there's going to be crazy stuff that happens with Clown Car, given that there is already so much variety to what Junior can do, like in each style, for instance. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Lemmy.
Now, let's see here. So, let me... it just gives you the balls. This is in SMB1, so that's kind of our answer to what any of these guys do in SMB1. I think this is the first one we've seen. We've got 3 balls active here. I wonder if there can be more, but let's see the deflection pattern again.
Morton. Lemmy.
Okay, so notice how this bounces Mario back. And actually, Theoremon, over here, I'm thinking of the hard mode path in that level that you have that is based on Big Mushroom Mario kind of bouncing everywhere. I think Mario actually kind of loses control when he all hits him in the face like that. Like, it actually pushes him back. Let's see Mario's landing. That is...
Lemmy.
Notice, ball pushes Mario back. Mario lands. Mario breaks these blocks. Like, Mario is pushed back, and he hits back. Well, I mean, I guess that's the end of a jump to begin with. Like, at the end of any jump, Mario would be in that state where he breaks things. So basically, Mario preserves state when the ball hits him in the face. And it's just like a standard jump landing.
Roy.
Roy is, first of all, one of the only things in this game other than booze, I guess, and arguably Monty Moles, that's going to bury into a ground block and pop out like that. Okay, so he basically acts like a Monty Mole, at least in this style here.
Iggy.
See that again. Notice too that, well, kind of like a Rocky Wrench actually, that he fires projectiles presumably while he is burrowed. Watch.
Roy. Iggy.
Yeah, it is the combination of 2 patterns. It's very true. Although Super Mario World pattern, yeah, because that's with the ceiling drop, right? Like where he goes up the wall and then climbs and comes back. I would be very surprised if they actually did implement the vertical climb for Roy or Morton. Like, I'd love to try that out, and I think if they were being faithful to Super Mario World, they would put it in, but there's very little precedent in this entire game for like wall interactions like that, apart from, you know, piranha plants clinging to the wall. I guess the precedent for how to work with ground tiles would be, yeah, with the way that you can attach boos. But in terms of like any kind of wall interactions, I would be very surprised. Now, the interesting thing though is that if we see him spawn like that, can he get back into the ceiling? Like, is there a way for him to bury himself into a ceiling?
Iggy.
Okay, so here's Iggy. He's just gonna back and forth and fire stuff at you. Does he do anything interesting in that style? If he does, other than just running and firing, I mean, Iggy's always been a bit of a pushover. Yeah, it would be weird if you couldn't get back to the ceiling, but then that raises a very important series of questions as to, okay, first of all, what kind of blocks would he detect as a valid ceiling? Like, look at this. So he's clinging to hard blocks. Hard blocks, as we know, are breakable, right? Like you can blow them up with bombs or something. So know that it's not just ground tiles that he can attach himself to. Potentially, you could have interactions with other destructible kinds of blocks, like ice blocks, for instance, so like the coin ice blocks. I actually saw for the first time today a level that was sent to me last viewer level session that was really, really good because it was based on using the on-off dotted line blocks to create paths for Monty moles to come out of the ground. So I wonder, for instance, if the ceiling interaction could be something that you can manipulate with key switches or on-off switches. And moreover, what the range would be, like if he gets back onto the ceiling, what kind of, how high is he allowed to go? And, whether that can be manipulated.
Iggy. And Ludwig.
Yeah, I agree. It would be kind of pointless. To go back to Roy for a sec, because I think this is really interesting. Like, I really don't know if you could even place him in the ground to begin with. Like, I mean, you can with Monty Moles, but notice how he's buried in one tile, right? I would assume that Roy would just be placed in the world to begin with, and then, he could kind of rebury himself because he's going to start exposed anyway. The reason that I kind of doubt that you could start him blocked is, first of all, that he's kind of occupying one tile there, so that would make placement kind of weird. Like Monty Moles, it makes sense for them to kind of be buried directly in the ground because they only ever pop up once and they only occupy one tile to begin with. Of course, the big ones are 2x2, but you can see Roy, he's 2x2, but he's tucked into one tile here. The other reason is that like it would totally mess up spawn blocking, I think, if you would have his placement overlap. I don't think you can place him directly on ground. Like, I'm surprised if that were the case. It would probably be spawn blocked.
Iggy. And Ludwig.
Okay, let's see Ludwig. So this is in Super Mario World, and he's going to do the triple projectile here. I don't think he did in NSM. Did he?
7 elite.
Oh yeah, he does. Ludwig does the triple there and triple back here as well. Notice how far they go before they dissipate. Really, really far.
They each have their own.
Yeah, expand to about coin size, or a little bigger than coin size. If you can put munchers on these guys, you can force some booze interaction. Well, the thing about munchers is that muncher stacking and things like Monty Mole stacking already work as a way to keep enemies in place, right? Like in terms of trying to make sure a Magic Koopa or a Boom Boom just kind of stays in position, like already allow you to do some stuff with stacking. So, like with all these guys, because their projectile patterns are so different, you probably could do some things that put them on top of a stack, fix them in a position like you can already do with some of the other mini bosses, and have them like round on a, I don't know, bullet blaster or something, right? Like if you just have the right stacking pattern between them. Yeah, boss interactions, yeah, because boos don't actually collide with very much standard style.
Moves to keep you on your toes in boss battles.
But that might be interesting though to like have them on some kind of boo operated stack. Okay, variety of new parts. I'm so overwhelmed with the stuff they've shown already, I've already forgotten most of this section. Okay, cursed key. Of course, this is SMB2. They only showed us in multiplayer, but oh, Ruffy Ref, thank you for dropping by. They only show this in multiplayer, but I assume that
Cursed key will sick the frightening Phanto on any.
Works basically like a key where, you know, it's threatening while you carry it, but even in single player, it is something that is going to put some pressure on you to get to the door. Now, let's look at the pattern. The enemy pattern that is activated from this.
Phanto on anyone who dares pick it up. Oh man.
Okay, so you see him come out. He's not colliding with the ground or anything. Let's watch his pattern.
And the temptation to.
Yeah, flipping right through. I wonder if that's going to be based on screen position. There are a few things in Mario Maker that are already based on like the screen position no matter where you scroll. Clouds, like the Lakitu or Lakitu clouds are one of them. Angry Sun and Moon are another one. Charvarg is another one. Like there are some that pieces that are entirely based on that and therefore scroll with you. And in the context of a very fast auto-scroller, they would like move quickly as well out already. So I wonder, given the flight pattern we see here, that's going to be something similar, like it's going to be right, like an Angry Sun pattern. Which naturally leads me to wonder if there is anything that can kill it. Like, can anything interact with it the way that bombs can kill the Angry Sun? The way that, you know, Link is just extremely powerful and Link just seems to deal with almost anything. Or like you'd want to try Link's whole weapon set against him. See if that does anything at all. Something like Karubo's shoe or Tribone's shell, like would that kind of protect you or take damage? Anyway, the key itself is interesting, I think, because it would just work like a standard key. But like a standard key, it means that you can have it pop out of question blocks, for instance. So you can have question blocks that set off this guy as a trap, even if the key is not particularly useful for anything. That kind of leads to another interesting question, which is that normally if you have a level that has no locked doors, or no remaining locked doors, yeah, no locked doors, like when you grab a key, the key just kind of goes away. I guess whether key is activated is based on whether you're carrying a key. But you can basically think about, you know, entity budget manipulation tricks. Like if you've ever seen levels where the number of things that are on the screen or spawned into memory affects whether or not the key also spawns. Like if you've seen those levels, they've been kind of popular lately. That might have interesting implications for the cursed.
Get up! Or not.
Okay. So let's see what's going on with. Oh, look at these.
The bouncy.
Oh my goodness. That is wonderful. Look at that.
Qualities of the on-off trampoline can be activated with a switch.
Oh, wow. Wow, 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 wow. Okay. So, one of the reasons that this is incredibly cool is that trampolines are right now one of the only objects in the 3D world style that can stack on top of other kinds of ground. So, for example, if you know how semi-solids work in 3D world, you know how usually the top row of a semi-solid needs to be kept completely clear, right? Or if you have other kinds of ground, like cloud blocks and such, like basically stacking stuff in 3D world when it comes to terrain is an absolute nightmare. But not with trampolines. Trampolines are one of the only things that overlap. So you can basically hide trampolines on existing kinds of ground and have on-off activated patterns that use that property. I wonder if that would take priority, like if you stack the trampoline. I mean, it should take priority because that's how trampoline stacking already works. Also, the other reasons is fantastic is that, what was I going to say even? It's one of the only things that's going to, well, it's going to be a very budget efficient substitute for the trampoline pieces, of course, and also is something that's not something you can pick up or manipulate in some other way. That's of course true of trampolines already, but having it be activated by on-off like really kind of extends the possibilities.
Trampoline can be activated with a switch.
Also, on-off blocks in 3D world. Finally, look at that. Is that not beautiful? I already thought when they patched in the P blocks in the last patch that like P blocks were just the most amazing thing in 3D world simply because we did not have a one-tile solution to, you know, dropping the player or blocking things off that could not just be eliminated somehow. And 3D world in general just really lacks one-tile pieces because everything is just gigantic, right? It just takes up a ton of space. Yeah, that is incredible. Like, it is about time. And I would assume that it works the way that the E blocks already work in 3D world when it comes to collisions and when it comes to, you know, blowing things up that are sitting on top of that spot. Thank you for the follows, by the way. I'm glad some of you are finding this entertaining or informative. It's really good, by the way, just to, as an aside, to hang out with other makers and do this, because I think sometimes there's this frustration when we see, you know, things like Game Explain put out their videos where they always seem to gloss over the stuff we really want to find out. Thank you, Theorymon. Theorymon cannot wait to see what kind of psychedelic madness you manage to get out of this stuff when you finally come back to making.
You can eat.
Okay, look at this pattern. Look at this pattern. It's gonna go out here in the middle. So you got two coins, two rows of potentially of coins here.
Use
It sails downwards. Okay, so you know that it loses height when it comes out. We hadn't seen that previously, had we? Because when we saw the boomerang suit the first time, we saw Mario just throw a boomerang horizontally while standing on the ground. So we didn't have an opportunity to see what it does with over a longer scale, but it seems like the boomerang actually loses height, which is absolutely fascinating.
You can even use them like this.
Okay. Notice that the on-off fraction knocks out the boomerang. Let's go back to the boomerang earlier. See something, just check it. Boomerang flower. Okay, no, we didn't actually see the boomerang interact when it rocks, did we? Okay. Because my question is, what kind of collision destroys the boomerang? Here, is it being destroyed because the on-off block is killing it, like this dotted line block to the left of the on-off switch? Is it killing it? Or is the collision killing it? Hard to tell, but I would assume it's actually the block spawning that is killing it. Because, like, intuitively, the way the boomerang should work is that if you hit a switch with it, it should come back, right? but we haven't actually seen that yet.
Mech
Okay, Mecha Koopa. Wonderful. Let's just play it and see.
Koopas are wind up.
Notice, oh, I guess the video is zoomed in, that's why they look so huge when they actually do still take up the old one-tile size. Again, not compatible with 3D World. This is just going to be in the standard styles. Let's watch this again.
Mecha Koopas are wind-up automatons.
Okay, so that's just a classic, setup that we all know from the original finale of Super Mario World. Now, what is this? What is this? Let's take a look. Oh, okay, that's just bomb explosions. That's not interesting. Yeah, those are just bombs that we already knew about. Come down to parachutes.
Automatons.
Let's take a look.
The red ones.
Okay, so we know there is a red variant. Look at him stack. Look at this guy's massive gaping mouth. Also, we know that they can wear wings, but most pieces can. That's not really a surprise.
Shoot homing missiles.
However, look at the wing pattern. The wing pattern seems to maintain it in a single vertical location the way that paratroopers work. Like, it's not flying around, it's not bobbing around, it's just bobbing around in a single column. At least by the looks of it, rather. Let's watch this segment again.
The red ones shoot homing missiles. The blue.
Okay. The homing missiles are themselves a totally new element. I mean, they work basically like the red bullet bills. They look quite a bit smaller than the red bullet bills, and not clear on whether. Let's see Mario's interaction with them. I think they probably just work exactly the same way as red bullet bills.
Red ones shoot homing missiles.
But they also have a short range. Look at that. If you look at that one on the left, it seems to blow up after a very short time. This one's coming from off-screen, unless it's... I think it is coming from off-screen. Let's watch the one on the left.
The red ones shoot homing missiles.
And it's blinking. We know from the fact that it's coming off-screen that they actually have quite a long timer then. Because it's flying in for quite a few blocks when it's already blinking. And so yeah, it is entirely timed. And actually there's a very nice, clear indication of what the timer is. Especially when you compare them to red bullet bills, which just take forever to go off screen. Whirl around and around in some ways. Yeah, so they actually will blow up in midair, which is really interesting in its own right. If you can use these to blow up blocks, activate bombs, etc., like, you can have them in a fixed position and kind of control how long those projectiles will last and where they go, and you can use them to blow up specific locations, for instance, but on a timer. In the same way that currently you can, for example, use Mario to lead flying spike balls as a target. Like, remember when the spike patch came in, that's one of the first things that a lot of people played with was in styles where the spike ball actually kind of floats around as a homing missile. You know, have Mario jump around and lead it. It has something very similar, but with an expiry. So that will be very much a brand new interaction.
Shoot homing missiles. The blue ones attack with laser beams.
Okay. Look at this. So, the other question I'm wondering all this time is what kind of defenses you have against it. So, for example, let's say you have a Shelmet, and you duck with the Shelmet, which block tons of stuff like fire. It blocks fire, but does stuff like that block electricity? That's something to find out, I think. I would assume that, for example, Shelmets would just kind of defend against these from below, because that intuitively is how they work with so much else. I have no idea how they'd work with these guys, because we've just never seen that before. Can they go through walls? That's a very good question, because we haven't seen them go through anything non-destructible yet, have we? They just go all the way to the screen. Which makes me wonder what actually stops these beams.
Blue ones attack with laser beams.
So you actually do get a little bit of time to dodge them, like it's not not instant rather, like it's just very fast. Why does this one seem to extend further than this one? I wonder if it's like a different activation
Blue
time.
ones attack with laser beams.
Yeah, look at how the middle projectile is ahead of the bottom one. I think it's probably because of proximity, that you activated this one by proximity before you activated the bottom one, just because of the way you're falling in, right? And that's the only explanation I can think of for why the middle one would outpace the bottom one. So yeah, I think that seems to be evidence that they will
Blue
be
ones attack with
activated by proximity or sightline. Notice also how they are, well, I mean, they're Mecha Koopas. They're going to have a pattern of going back and forth on the same platform, right? So that's why they look like they are in that location. I think they're just going back and forth on one tile. Maybe. Not really sure.
laser beams. And at night, they all come equipped with jet engines.
Okay. So, okay, that track is just for the platform. Okay, look at this. The reason you can stand on it is, of course, because you are an SMB2, rather. You can put laser Mecha Koopas on punchers. You could do dodge levels with that. Yeah, yeah. That would be absolutely fantastic, I think. Now, let's watch this interaction again, because Mario is just kind of sitting correctly
They all
on the nose. Look at the collision from SMB2 style. I guess we are very... So this is... like, it's almost like it's a 3x3. Let's take a look at the tiling for the Koopas again, because the small ones just take up... they're kind of 2x2, actually. I might not be seeing that correctly. No. I mean, it looks like the placement would probably be just one tile, and they just have a very large head for a hitbox. Like, I would assume they just work as one tile. So this guy would just be... like, I would assume you can place him as a 2x2 maybe, and then he just has a really big head, but then look at him just stand all the way over here. Like, I think SMB2 as a suit is just going to give you tons of stuff to play with in terms of how it collides with stuff in the hitboxes. The trolling possibilities are admittedly something I'm not really looking forward to, but I guess we'll learn them the hard way.
come equipped with jet engines.
Okay, look at this. Wide beam, 2-tile beam. Yeah, so this guy's totally a 2x2. You can see it very clearly now that he's a 2x2. But he's going to fire a 2-wide beam with a big charging move. Let's see.
Laser beams. And at night, they all come equipped with jet engines.
So it looks like this will be in every night theme. So one interesting thing to look out for then is in the night themes that are based on darkness, how the illumination works. Also in the night themes that are based on water, or enemies moving like they are in water, how the jet engines work. Not that Mario Maker has ever been logical about interactions of fire and water. Blast this thing, look at that. Also, see how the interaction with the ice blocks is the same interaction as fire. That's very interesting for a couple of reasons. Like, first of all, it confirms that the laser beam is detected like fire. It works like fire. But it's the only thing I can think of in this game that has fire at this distance on a straight line. Like burners have fire on a straight line, but they're kind of based on a timer, right? These guys would obviously still be based on proximity. Notice too that it doesn't fire until it lands. Like I don't think there's a way it fires in midair, but we don't know how it's going to work in the water or floating themes. Okay, so world map. Lots to do here. Yeah, love that the style is just kind of a mix of different Mario eras in some ways. Like obviously the music and the course icons and such and the tools are kind of meant to evoke Super Mario World, but it's not quite Super Mario World. Like you got kind of this NSMB over here. A couple of things we're going to look out for. We have lives and coins that are tracked, of course. That, I think, is going to have some very interesting implications. I wonder if the initial life counter can be set. Let's just watch these numbers carefully, see what happens. See World 1, applying, of course, multiple worlds, as we saw earlier. Also, look at this. Type, type. I don't know if those will just kind of warp you. I would assume they just warp you directly. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any room to build in a little interstitial segment like you have in SMB3. The question is whether these pipes, like whether they just kind of teleport you the way that doors do, or whether they can actually take you elsewhere into the equivalent of a different world or part of a different world the way this work in Super Mario World. I actually don't remember if they showed this. Let's just watch the video and see. Yeah, you got Peach kind of peering out from outside of the castle. Wonder if there's only going to be one endpoint you can set as a castle, and whether you have any flexibility with being, like whether you can use a course of any theme at level.
Introducing World Maker,
I would assume so.
a new mode that lets you create your own worlds.
Okay, let's look at this carefully, because we finally see a design palette for the first time in a while. Okay, so this icon over here is usually where the core spot is. Assuming something similar. Okay, so it looks like you have to start with a starting point tile, a boss tile. The boss tile seems to be empty until you assign it to a specific level. That's what I'm gathering from. You have different pathway types. You have a bridge type. This, of course, is the same as the game style icon. I've seen already that you have different overworld themes. Budget here. 4 levels, 3 bonus houses, 2 types. Now, I don't know if it showed us how the bonus houses work.
You create your own worlds.
Let's just go back to the screen here. So yeah, you can see that this remains within that budget. 1, 2, 3, 4 standard courses, which is up to the maximum. 2 pipes here, and you've just got 1 of the toads. Looks like there's a maximum of 3 toad houses, but then the question is, do they just give you a power up that you assigned them, or what happens with them? I don't think we actually saw that, or at least we might have seen that, but I just don't remember it. This thing tucked here, let's keep an eye out for what's on the top right, if we actually see that later.
Select and place panels to build a route for your courses.
Okay. Also, notice that, of course, you can set your starting lives. So here you have a starting condition of 5 lives. I wonder if that is something that can be manipulated per world. I kind of doubt it. Like, I think it's going to be a starting condition for the entire game that you have set up. Notice too that you have the standard like erase, undo, dog, clear.
A path from the starting point to the castle.
Okay, so it just kind of tells you that it's a valid connection. looks like up until then, yeah, so the path is blank till the path is valid.
To the castle. Build bridges.
Yeah, look at that. So the connection tells you that the path is actually completed. If you put wings on the... Sorry, I totally missed what you said earlier about wings on a laser Mecha Koopa. Yeah, that'll be quite interesting. Okay, so what was used there for the eye placement? Oh, I see. No, that's the thing that's on the top right. That's what allows you to place cliffs. Yeah.
Create.
Looks like the T intersection kind of automatically joins up to that path.
Hills. And change.
And it looks like these are probably just purely aesthetic. I love how you've got 3D World style as well. 3D World, SMB, and Super Mario World.
The look of the land in all sorts of ways.
And of course, this is only in
place the
grassland
courses
style.
you've made along the path.
It looks like this will probably just be aesthetic, I think. Like, I mean, you're mapping existing courses onto this, so I would assume there is obviously still no support for something like exits or key exits, obviously. Like, I think it's just you clear the course once and it will open both paths for you. I would be very surprised if it worked any differently. So yeah, so it looks like here it's just showing you how to assign it castle, assign an existing level, and I would really be surprised if that were restricted in a meaningful way. Like, I don't think it would be restricted to castle levels. That screen is just a little course pot. And okay, look at this icon here. It looks like these icons are for existing map assignments. Like, that looks new, doesn't it? And that looks like it's something that tells you this level is part of an existing game. Notice that some of them are clear checked for or uploaded, some of them are not. Yeah, I mean, that works pretty much how we would expect. Let's take a look at the existing levels here and see if there's anything interesting or new in them. I don't think so. I don't think anything here really stands out. Okay.
You can even change your course.
Okay, let's look at that palette. Look at it very carefully. Looks like all of the uncleared dots are red. Oh, we gotta compare that to what was earlier. Just a moment. Look at that. These are cleared and they're blue. You got yellow. I wonder if the dot colors actually mean anything then. I don't think I was paying that much attention to them earlier. Pretty trivial thing, but you know. Scroll forward and see the course placements.
Then place the courses you've made.
Yeah, when you place them, they are
along
placed as red. And then when you open up the palette to change them, they all kind of default red. But I would assume that the colors would give you the clear state. Okay, so Forest of Illusion. Get very new sprite for Haunted Mansion. Interesting that you keep here all of these Super Mario World sprites, or I guess Super Mario World style sprites. But you also have new ones here. You get, of course, SMB3 Airship, Fortress. Yeah, okay, let's just keep looking at this. Also notice that you see the screen preview here for which level you are dealing with. Yeah, it looks like with the yellow one earlier, that yellow looks like it was just a dead end. Like the thing that distinguishes them here is that yellow doesn't go anywhere. Like it might be something cleared that just stops. Unless, of course, you can just manipulate these individually by just holding down.
You might find yourself matching.
Look at the bridge color here as well. So notice how the fortress is uncleared. See from the paths, both of the paths. And because the bridge is uncleared, it appears as blue.
Matching moving pictures and a bonus.
Ah, okay. So the bonus house actually is a game. It is the SMB3 game. I wonder if that is something you can change, like whether the bonus game style is always going to be SMB3.
Stage.
Okay. So, of course, it's not going to be lives based, right? I'll give you something else.
Or
so at this point, we don't actually know what the bonus rooms will give you. I would assume they give you lives like they do in SMB3. But animation for the mismatch here makes me wonder if they do anything. So I would be very surprised if they did anything other than. The problem with, for example, giving you a power-up on a map is that could totally break your ability to clear certain levels, because levels are kind of clear-checked with their own internal state, right? Like, I would not think that in Mario Maker you would ever be able to carry existing power-ups into a level simply because of the way Mario Maker works. Like, I just don't think that would work. So I think this is almost certainly just lives.
Or taking a warp pipe to a.
Okay, so we can see warp pipe is just mapped directly within the same world. Point A, point B. Going by the color is likely lives. Yeah, I think you are right. You're absolutely correct. Just given that it's a one-up mushroom. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
Far off island.
This is why, by the way, it's very nice to have you folks here, because I think sometimes, you pull up analysis videos when they come up, and you think of all the ways in which, oh my god, the people doing these are overlooking the most obvious things or making wrong inferences. And what I'm finding is that it's actually surprisingly difficult to, keep your memory of how Mario works completely accurate while you were talking about this live. So I really appreciate the input.
Run through a wonderfully coin-filled.
Okay, look at that prompt here. A for play, B for clear. Interesting.
Run through a one.
A for play, B for clear. What do you think B for clear does? Like, would it just, and B being a cancellation button, would it remove it somehow? Or, but you're not in an editor mode, like you're in a play mode, not a make mode. However, you do know that you're previewing this in the editor, like you're not actually playing this for real, as it were, because you have the make icon here. You know that you're still manipulating it in the mode. So wonder if this appears when you are playing, like, an external player kind of running through the world properly, or if it's just kind of an editor extension. Yeah, as you said, ref, I think it probably is a debug option such that you can kind of manipulate things when you are not actually in the make mode, similar to how already in the level building mode, like you can do things like manipulate Mario's position with a stylus when you are not actually in the make mode. You can have access to debugging functions like that. Oh yeah, no, I absolutely see what you mean now. For clear, is that like if you are the maker, you would want a way to kind of automatically mark a stage just to preview how certain paths will open up. So you would have certain paths that are not open yet that you want to check to make sure that the flow is actually the way you want it. So for example, you had the fortress here. If you want to just make sure that it opens up the passages properly, you would want to do an automatic clear just to activate everything and just kind of see that your grid is working the way you intended. One thing we do not see on this screen, first of all, to address that question, RefiRev, I really don't think you would be able to keep power-ups between levels. I think that would fundamentally break the game because of the way things are clear checked. So for example, let's say you have a level that absolutely requires you to be Small Mario to start. Like it has no way of letting you take damage and has no way of letting you die other than timing out, say. If you go into that as Big Mario, then that just breaks and you just die, right? It's going to be pretty interesting regardless how people try to build like troll style worlds, like basically worlds that are using the map to kind of trick you in some way or get you into weird positions. But I would assume just as a matter of debugging, like carrying power ups with you would just never work.
Coin-filled course.
Okay, let's go back, see what it's
To
saying.
run through a wonderfully coin-filled course. You could really make your world stand out by changing the theme to underground.
Okay. So underground. Notice how we have different tile sets now for everything. We have different tile sets for the doodads. We have different tiles for what is going on here? Okay, you can see that we can actually place levels in water, as you can see with a Cheep Cheep. We saw the Cheep Cheep decoration earlier in the palette. It looks like that's what it does. That's go back to palette. So here it just said Cheep Cheep, and of course here you get the kind of Donut Plains 2 style of, not Donut Plains 2, but Donut Plains style of, because that's the cave, or Forest Evolution, I guess, style of placing the water background. But if you place the Cheep Cheep, it looks like it actually is something that you place in water, and it kind of takes up a little water block by itself, and this seems like it's just extended by an addition. I think there's probably no restriction on what kind of levels you can assign to each icon. Like you can have a Cheep Cheep here, but it can have a stage that does something completely different. I think it's probably just totally arbitrary. Although I think, traditionally minded makers still want to make things match up, but some people really won't. This thing here is interesting. I wonder if it is just a decoration, because notice how absolutely no paths attached to it. And there's nothing here to indicate that paths can ever be invisible until unlocked. Like it gives you everything right from the start. And we already have 4 stages here. 1, 2, 3, 4 level placements. So I think this is just a decoration. Would be very surprised if it's anything other than a decoration, just given that total lack of connections to it. And we know that you can have 3 different types of decorations from what we saw previously. We already have 1, 2, 3. That's probably what's going
on. Underground. Desert.
Okay, desert. This, as we saw, was just a Force Illusion level decoration. Kind of cool to see it in a desert, like a bit of an oasis. There's one thing that we have not seen yet. It must be possible given how the layout tool works, but we have not seen multiple paths going to one level. I don't think we have seen that at all, where you have multiple entry points. We've seen multiple exits, but not multiple entry points. I'm absolutely sure that multiple entry points would be possible. The unlocking logic would be kind of interesting, though. We just built kind of a connected grid, and I wonder if the paths would all just kind of unlock by adjacency. But thus far, it seems like we haven't actually seen evidence of sort of a many-to-one pathway. And we got some decorations, pyramids here, and we have an actual oasis. Got pyramids, rocks, oasis. That seems like it's the three types at our disposal. And yeah, so if it is by adjacency, like you cleared this, then technically you would think that it opens up the path to the pipe and both paths out of the pipe, like give you access to it all at once. Like it would not be directional. I may be totally wrong because maybe this is another. No, you would see it if it's a level rather than just a junction. Yeah, you already have 4 levels. 1, 2. Okay.
Snow.
Okay, so here's snow. Notice that the snow theme has the white background. Was that available earlier? Yes, it was. You can use the snow background and sand background and water background in any theme you choose. Okay, let's back up here.
Desert. Snow.
We saw this in the overground and the palette tool earlier, but it's kind of nice to see these curved junctions on the paths. Water. Notice, of course, too, that in the snow theme, the pokies are the snow pokies. Something that is unique to this.
Sky.
Okay. So I love how this sits above the vine. That this would be the equivalent of cliff, I'm guessing. Yeah, because look at this. On the left, see the water pool that is on the cloud, which is very much like Mario Galaxy, I guess. And an unlockable pathway. And the unlockable pathway presumably would unlock this vine art. And it would work as the equivalent of the path. Rainbows here would work as the equivalent of the bridges. The sky would just be the equivalent of the water, which already raises one very, very, very interesting. What do you do if you, what do you get rather, if you place a cheap stage model on this theme? What does it do? That's something to try.
Forest.
Okay, let's take a look at forest. Of course, you get the Forest of Illusion art again. Poison pool looks like it's just a piece of artwork. These decorations we've seen already. See a confirmation, if we haven't had one already, that the houses are placeable in.
Volcano.
Okay. Volcano theme. Yeah, this is just on high ground. And as with the underground theme, it looks like torches, beacons are just decoration. Okay. Now, were dry bones a possible choice earlier? They weren't. What this implies to me is that, like how the snow pokies replaced pokies in the snow theme, I bet dry bones replaces Koopa Troopas, the volcano castle lava theme. Oh yeah, let's step through some of your artwork again just to see what's unique to these worlds. Like this we'd seen the snow pokey over here. He had pointed out the artwork here already. The level artwork seems to be standard though. Yeah, notice how all of the castles that are the world castles but not the final boss, like they all share the same kind of mid-castle. What we've seen are, as opposed to the final castle, I think has a different model. Yeah, final castle of course has Bowser's shell on it, as is convention. But yeah, Dry Bones faces the Koopa probably. Display
Or outer space.
Outer space, always nice for a bonus World 9. Love this layout here. It really totally looks like a bonus World 9. I think we actually still haven't seen like a many to one connection, have we? Oh yeah, we have, like with the pipes and such. I'm sure that the whole thing is kind of done by adjacency. You have multiple entry points here, for sure. Oh no, that's an exit, that's not an entry. You have to beat the fortress first to go to the pipe, then go to the pipe and go up to this level. So actually, no, we have not seen a many to one. We've seen a one. I think that is still true. I would be kind of surprised if they didn't let you do a many to one connection to kind of create like a really non-linear kind of grid layout. I also don't know how they would block or prevent that. Like, I don't think they could do that. But it is sort of surprising to me that that is never shown off here, at least in the world artwork that we have seen so far.
Volcano or outer space?
Okay, did we see anything else interesting about outer space? Other than the fact that space presumably replaces water, and the cliffs are the same as the sky cliffs. Okay, so we have the theme selector here. You've seen all of these, I think. Brown, sky, forest, castle, desert, underground, snow, and galaxy. Yeah, we've seen it all. Yeah, as you can see from the palette, like one pair of pipes is your limit. Like it says 2 pipes as placeable elements, but that means that you are only allowed 1 pipe connection.
This way you can make your own Super Mario game.
Interesting. I don't think I'd seen... Oh yeah, this is just the NSMB style decoration.
A super...
Oh, okay, I see. So, like, the rocks are just part of the standard background when no paths are placed on them, so they were actually not one of the placeable artwork doodads. It's these two, and it's the torch. Yeah, the space hills are definitely slipping.
World of up to 8...
Okay, 8 worlds, 40 courses. That will be very good news, I think, to people who have already designed theirs that way. I can definitely think of a few people who actually did just do, like, 8 worlds, 4 courses apiece. 4 courses and a castle, so 5 courses apiece, yeah. Yeah, 5 each. That's what we've seen already, 4 standard levels and a castle. I've only published like 4 levels total. A lot of this is going to be challenging for me to fill, but I think people who already have a ton of traditional creations will absolutely love this.
8 worlds and 40 different courses.
Okay. It looks like there are probably a couple of different customizable parts for your logo. This would probably just use your username. But let's just step through the logos and see what the variety is.
So, unveil your very own super
Worlds, you got a new icon down here in the bottom left.
world in course.
And unveil your very own Super World in Course World, so I guess you can share a code for it. Oh, these icons, I bet, just show you 3 worlds, 12 levels. Makes sense. This probably tells you starting bank of 35 lives. Also, notice, you can hit play together to do local co-op across the entire world from the start. Which will, I think, be very interesting for people to do local co-op.
In course world. That way, you can take all...
Okay, Super Ronnie World. Yeah, actually no, this is the same design that we saw for Super Ellie World. So maybe... I get the impression that you can only make one of these per account. Would suspect. But we'll see. Which kind of makes me wonder, like, how browsing them will work. Like, if I browse your profile, will it just give me one link to your active world? And if you change that layout, particularly if you change that layout, like, and re-upload it while I'm already playing through it, for instance. Well, I mean, I guess it would work the same way that levels already. But
Ideas that couldn't be contained in a single course and share.
okay, let's take a look here. Okay, look at the ninja here in the cloud. Actually, look at the ninjas over here. The ninjas are sort of interesting. We know that so far in the ninja speedrun mode, they represent other players. Also notice co-op art here. I don't think this means that you actually have to dry bone shell as a power-up. I would assume that that's just a standard animation for when you are walking through lava ever. Also notice that we finally see a many one connection like I was talking about before. You get 3 different pathways, all go to the castle. The ninja in the cloud over here on the top right does not appear to be bound to any kind of level, so they're not attached or anything, although these ones certainly look like they're location specific. Yeah, Alex, we've been having a great time just walking through absolutely everything. Alex, I think you already know what I am thinking, which is that you can finally have yin and yang world, which is just going to eat through people's lives. But yeah, with your saga, as you said, like we're kind of ahead of me on that already. But like I said, I kind of suspect that users will probably just have one world attached to their account. That would be my guess. I don't think they've said anything to
Course and
indicate
share them with
otherwise.
people around the globe.
Okay. So look at the ninjas here. Maybe that tells you, I don't know if that tells you number of clears or number of players or what. Notice as before in the Dry Bones shell that like people are playing this in 4-player co-op, which we know from the play together on when you enter the world. So the ninjas probably do indicate either how many other clears there are or how many other players there are. I'm not really sure what would make more sense. Indicating how many other clears would be really interesting, I think, because it would tell you how many people just kind of drop off as you go through the world. Like, you know, you could tell where the hard levels are and what the roadblocks are and where everybody is dying. In terms of, you know, suddenly you have like a level with 1,000 clears and then a level with 5 clears or something. I don't know if it's clears or if it's visits. It might even be visits. Oh, there's a ninja button. Yeah. That's well spotted. Ninja button on the bottom right. I would suspect that that's just a show or hide button. Maybe it's something more interesting than that. Let's keep watching and let's see if that does anything. But I think that might just be something that shows or hides. Okay, so now it's going to review everything we've seen so far. We can see that the frog suit does allow you to carry items when you are dashing over water, and that when you are maintaining momentum with the full P meter, that jumping allows you to continue skimming. Hey, let's look at P meter again, by the way. Let's go back to the frog suit when it was. Okay, so watch the P meter.
Frog suit lets
Okay,
you
so that
become Frog
full
Mario.
when you dash.
It lets you swim
get
through
almost-
water with ease and run across.
Okay, so you can see right from the start here, see that Mario already has P meter at full. Now, there are, of course, a lot of interactions that, whether the P meter is shown or not, are kind of based on building up your dash momentum and building up the sort of hidden P in the other styles, right? But other than the... So for example, whether you're able to fly with the cape in Super Mario World. But other than the way that the Tanuki leaf has always worked for the raccoon suit, this is really interesting because it is a power-up that will be dependent on P momentum. What that means, among other things, is that entering the water can be something that you can do in a very compact setup with something like a conveyor belt. So, for example, if you run on a short conveyor belt, that would be able to launch you over the surface. Like if you were really short on space. I am sure that's how it would work because it's just entirely based on building up the dash. Let's go back to the review. Okay, so... Oh. Did you see that? Did you see that? Super Mario Brothers 2, picking up the cloud blocks. Now, we know that cloud blocks are already destructible with things like swamps. This, however, like the big swamps, this, however, is absolutely crazy. Like, it's an interaction with clouds when you are standing above them. I don't think there's anything in the game that allows you to do that right now. And, like, for any SMB1 level that gives you the SMB2 suit, like, now that's something that is like a totally new property of cloud blocks in terms of what kind of passages you make with them. If you think about, for example, how you can do a Metroidvania kind of layout, like if you are okay with the term Metroidvania, like if you want to think about vertical blocks that are based on going through ground, suddenly you have a solution to that with SMB2. One very interesting question is, if you reload the zone, will the cloud blocks spawn? I think they must, right? Like, that's how they work already when they are destroyed by thwomps. I think. But my memory may be off with that. Oh my goodness, this is really interesting. Particularly given that, like, there are a lot of unique things that the cloud ground blocks do that you can't really do with a lot of other elements in a game. I'm gonna have to think about this, but this is really interesting. And yeah, it just outright destroys them when you pluck them. It's going to take a while, I think, for people to just find everything that you can do with SMB2 suit, because we've already seen you just pull snowballs out of the ground in the snow theme. We've seen you just kind of tug on ground here. Like, can you, for example, interact with things like donut blocks? Like, can you make donut blocks instantly drop instead of waiting for them if you pick them up with SMB2? Or can you do things with the ice coin blocks? Like, can you pull a coin out of the ice block or something? Or, like, the fact that SMB2 allows you to interact with different kinds of things that are usually classified as ground opens up a ton of possibilities. Also because of the fact that pieces that are on the ground budget rather than on the enemy and contraption budget usually don't have that many interactive properties. Suddenly you have a whole new interactive piece that you can just have tons of across your whole level. Yeah, I'm going to look at that face. Let's just play the animation again. Look at the face of clouds. Yeah, they're so sad. They're so sad. Okay, so let's see the P balloon again. And the question that we had much earlier in the stream was whether the P balloon was timed. I don't think we're going to see it for long enough to know for sure. But look at how fast they go in Desert Wind. Desert Wind seems to blow horizontally, as you would expect, and they go so fast. Yeah. That's almost certainly just entirely the wind effect. But the wind effect is just massive gust. Okay. This is pretty much the interaction that you could predict from 3D World in terms of these cannonballs knocking back the bullies. We know that the cannonball range is kind of limited to begin with, so let's just Yeah, so you see the second shot there? Second shot misses. Second shot misses and doesn't actually bump the bully. Even though it's one tile away, like the explosion doesn't do any kind of pushing. Contact does the push. So when the cannonballs expire, like the explosion from the expiry, I don't think actually affects anything around. Yeah, so first shot hits the bully, it bounces it back. Second shot totally misses. Okay, so let's see the POW. Just works like a red POW. It just works like a red POW, and it's pretty simple. Okay, so this is what somebody mentioned much earlier, which was you can use SMB2 to ride a bonsai bill. Notice that because you are off center from the bonsai bill, it is still tracking your position. And so when you are standing a little bit to the right, it is actually going with you. Like it's actually still trying to follow you around this corner. The coin didn't drop after the POW hat went off. That's because it's a red POW. Red POW would still be based on a red POW range. If the contact is here, I think the coin is actually out of range. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on, in fact. Because you're working with 3D World red POWs rather than the blue POWs. You see, the explosion range ends right along the top of the arc. Watch the explosion range? Yeah. The coin is just out of range. Okay, let's see what else we can do with this. So, as we saw much earlier with the big electric Mecha Koopa, the hitbox on SMB2 in terms of where you are allowed to stand safely is very, very generous. And so, I'm going to watch Mario position the Bonsai Bill. And this is absolutely fascinating because, like, the thing about Bonsai Bills in the standard styles, like not 3D World, is that they collide with pretty much nothing. Like, they are just standard jumping platforms that you jump on top of, right? Like, they don't actually hit anything. They're just really big temporary platforms that can damage you. So finally, we see an interaction with the Bonsai Bills that is a little bit more nuanced than that, which like actually makes their positioning matter. Can you pick it up? It's a good question. I wonder if you are allowed to pick it up. The large ones. Obviously, oh, this is interesting. If you have a normal red bullet bill, like a normal sized red bullet bill, can you also guide it, or do you not have enough room to manipulate it left or right? Because like the thing about the one tile standard bullet bills is that we know for sure that Mario can pick them up and throw them. The other question being, of course, like if you pick up and throw a red bullet, since it's a homing bullet, does it just try to come back to you and wrap around? Like that's one interaction that is worth testing. Okay. Yeah, so we don't see him pick up the bonsai, but that's an unknown. I think seeing how Mario could pick up and throw the red bullets is going to be very, very... Okay, so here is the interaction we talked about quite a while ago with the chain chomps. That the chain chomps, when you are carrying the stump, they seem to not damage Mario. Like, he's carrying it, chain chomp just clips right through very safely. Like, you don't get damaged when you're under this thing, even when it's the big 2x2 chomp. And it just does the big coin collection. Let's see that again. No, it doesn't touch the coins, it just hits the enemies, as you would expect. But it's... So it hits the enemies as though it is a shell or other item that Mario throws. Like basically Mario takes credit for it. Now the thing about Mario taking credit for some kind of damage interaction is that it affects a couple of things. The first thing it affects is your ability to hit blocks. So I wonder if it would hit anything like activate switches. Because of course this is already behaving differently than a normal chain chomp in that it is behaving like it's on Mario's side, right? Like it's hitting enemies for you. So the question is, first of all, does it hit blocks? Secondly, does it work like Link and the sword in terms of hitting invisible blocks? Testing it against invisible blocks might be interesting. Third, because you take credit for Chain Chomp hitting things in the way that, like, basically, Mario is kind of detected as the point of origin for the interaction. That means that it could activate sound effects. Sound effects for, hitting things that normally would not activate by themselves. Yeah, like, the thing is, Alex, like, I've barely uploaded anything, right? Like, I haven't uploaded since July, but I'm sitting on a whole bunch of unfinished levels. And the thing is, I have not even caught up to finishing ideas I had from the last patch. This patch looks like it's just going to last us probably for years. Like, we're going to be playing this game for so long. And the thing is, you guys know, like, and those of you who do send viewer levels to me, that we always just learn new stuff from having new people come in, and I suddenly have these profiles of dozens of courses that I've never played before, and which teach me new stuff. We are just not going to run out of juice on this game. Like, even Mario Maker 1 was interesting all the way up till 2019. Like, people were discovering new ways to launch munchers and chain chomps and such all the way up until Mario Maker 2 came out. Like, they were discovering new stuff about randomization all the way up until Mario Maker 2 came out. Like, this stuff, this game's going to be around for as long as the Switch is around, and it's going to be interesting for that long. I have no doubt. Okay, so Frog Suit. This is kind of interesting as a speed comparison. The Frog Suit swimming speed versus the Red Wiggler. Because, as you probably know, like, the standard swimming speed makes Red Wigglers. And look at him, he's just going to straight up outrun it. Like, directly on its nose. Whereas normally, I think with normal swimming speed, you just kind of need to let it pass safely by you. Okay, so this is just a boomerang interaction. It looks like it's probably based on launching it through a pipe. Notice, the boomerang keeps going because it's following Mario's horizontal position, I guess. Like, let's see how far it actually goes. Oh no. Interesting. Let's watch that whole animation again. Just watch it start to finish. Look at that. Look at that. So the boomerang reaches the end of its range. Now, as with the cannonballs, it looks like when it goes through the pipe, the range begins again at 0. The boomerang range is going to go to its extent out of the pipe, and then it's going to rebound this way to the left, because it rebounds away from Mario's horizontal position. And then it flies back towards Mario's horizontal position. So boomerang does one string of hits, and then it tries to detect Mario. It sees Mario to the right, and it does a second string of hits. Watch that carefully. Very, very cool. Okay. So now we have the Magic Koopa stack. And yeah, it's going to be the night theme, so we know that there's going to be a jetpack, laser, and the cannon before. Notice that it actually goes fairly fast in the night theme. It's going to boost all the way over here, and because the this guy up here is on a muncher stack, I wonder. Okay, they're actually both on a muncher stack. Very interesting that they are not just stacked directly top of each other, but they have their positions fixed in place by the munchers. I think that's probably just a spaced mode. Like, I don't think it actually matters, because we did see a free stack of Magic Koopas, not Mecha Koopas, not Magic Koopas, Mecha Koopas, much earlier. I'll show you. So yeah, here we can see they're directly stacked on top of each other. So I think the only reason to do the restack here with the munchers in between is just to add some distance to create like a larger and more imposing boss setup. And also to defend the lower levels from jumps, I would imagine. Now, because of the way that Magic Koopas normally behave when jumped on as throwable objects, I wonder what happens if you jump on one while its position is fixed to a muncher. I wonder if it is actually something you can pick up at that point or not. Or I guess it would work the same way that Dry Bones does, I would assume, but I don't really know because it is an object that you can pick up and throw. Okay, so we're going to see another round of Koopalings and Squirrel Suit. We're going to see our first sight of the Squirrel Suit on top of Yoshi. We're going to see our first sight of one of the Koopalings, not only in a giant form, but in the Fire Clown car. Let's watch the projectiles carefully.
The third update for Super Mario.
Okay, no, that's just standard projectile. Let's watch Yoshi again.
Update for Super Mario Maker 2.
That's just a standard Yoshi boost. I don't think that's anything particularly special. Let's watch Morton and see what Morton does. Stomp.
Launches April.
Oh, we don't actually get to see.
22nd.
We get to see that the date on it is 22nd of April. So at this point, any specific thing that you guys want to ask about or go over again, or any kind of shot that we want to scroll back to or talk about, any kind of questions? Juju Go today did see the ninjas. I will be cutting the entire VOD afterwards, by the way, for anybody who wants to just kind of scroll along. We actually just did a whole video in order. We occasionally just went back to see some specific things we wanted to double check. We totally saw the ninjas that were in the course world, though. Let me just up again. Yeah, these guys here, and also the
Share them with
clear
people around the globe.
Don't know if it's number of players, number of current players, or number of clears, like attempts or clears. But even if it is number of players that have reached that point and tried the level, it would show you what a drop off there is from one level to the next, I think. Oh, are you wondering if they're like a ninja speed run time? I would assume that. I mean, levels already have world record times attached to them. I don't think the ninjas are working the same way here that they do with speedruns. I think they're just an indicator of how many people have gotten to that point. Like, you'll notice that we only see the numbers go down from 2 to 1. I think it's probably either number of clears or number of players that have accessed it. I don't think it has anything to do with the record times. It's probably only going to save one record time per level. And it's probably only going to compare it to existing speed records that we have. That would be my guess. This is all stuff that we'll find out in like 2 days' time anyway. You have to clear the level to upload a ghost. I do wonder if you can race against a ghost, yes. It seems like that would probably be a storage issue, though, on their server side, just given how many... You know, like, if you think back to Super Mario 3D World, like, yeah, they had ghosts for every player that were stored on Miiverse. But that's only for the levels that are in Super Mario 3D World, right? Like, you're not talking about a Mario game for literally everybody's Mario Maker account. Like, that's a ton of data that I don't think they would have a neat way of efficiently representing. Maybe you're able to race against a record ghost or something, but I don't really know. Like, I don't know if it would actually display it inside the level. Maybe it does. But I suspect that ninjas probably just apply to the overworld. Like, I don't know what they do. Okay, so I'm not going to shut this down yet because there's actually one other thing we want to look at, which was earlier in the stream we received a tip that there are actually scenes in the Japanese version of the trailer that are a little bit different or show you different sprites. And we got a private link to that, so we can kind of look over the Japanese trailer at the end of this. But first of all, like, is there anything else that we want to discuss or look at before we pull that up? Just let me know. Oh my goodness, we've been at this for like 2 hours. But there has been so much stuff to talk about. I mean, yeah, you know, we will find all this stuff out in a few days' time. But it's kind of nice to just have an idea in advance of things we want to test. So yeah, give me a few minutes. I'm going to see if I can pull up the link to the Japanese trailer and maybe play that. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the Japanese trailer, and I was told that apparently the update trailers were done from different builds because sprites are different. So let's see if that's actually true. I can't really do a side-by-side comparison, unfortunately. I'm just not set up to do it. They look the same over here. Let's see. Larry looks the same. SMM2. Wendy looks different. This is a totally different Wendy sprite from what we saw earlier. I'm sure somebody will post a side-by-side comparison, but whoops. She was definitely on the left side. And yeah, and she was deflecting the projectiles that way. So this is actually a totally different shot from what we see. This is what we had seen before. Oh, it's the Mario World sprites of Wendy and Ludwig. Yeah, that's true. I sort of didn't remember that for Wendy because the thing is, Wendy doesn't come out of the pipe. Mario World, right? Or does she? Yeah. Iggy. Ah, yeah, Ludwig looks different. And very cool. And look at how Ludwig's got his hair color from Super Mario World as well. It's got the yellow hair. So I think that was the only thing that was pointed out to me. We can maybe, like, I don't know if anything else was pointed out about the Japanese version that we didn't already talk about. My memory of all this, despite talking about it for the past 2 hours, is probably not precise enough to kind of compare every shot. Any other things we want to talk about, or shall I wrap this up for the night? Looks like we went through everything fairly exhaustively with the information that we have. Once again, folks, it has been a great time to actually get to sit down and discuss it with, Mario makers. Thank you for all of the follows that I got from you guys over the course of this stream. I think what I will be doing, so for those of you who are new here, I do run viewer levels usually multiple times a week. The schedule has been kind of changing lately because of the lockdown conditions and because I've been playing some other stuff like Animal Crossing, but I think what I will do is I'll run a few extra streams over the next week once the patch comes out. When the patch comes out, the release date in NA is the 22nd, and so there will be some kind of posted server downtime anyway. Usually I stream on Wednesdays, but I might Oh, sorry, Refi. It doesn't actually let you post links in chat, but like, NOA Twitter, we'll all be able to head over there and see it. So anyway, I think what I will do is I might not be able to keep my usual viewer stream schedule anyway if it overlaps with the maintenance time, but I typically will do it Wednesday afternoons NA time and evenings EU time. I will probably be scheduling some additional days over the weekend, and I'm going to run a few viewer streams that are entirely going to be about showing off new concepts. So it's just going to be like 3.0 concepts only, and I might do that next week. I know that people take their time to build their levels, but sometimes people want to rush out some levels right away just to test some mechanics, right, and just to see some of the new interactions. And so that is likely what I will do starting this weekend and into next week. So I'll be running some viewer level streams to basically play around with the stuff. Outside of that, I will probably be spending all of my time in the editor mode like the rest of you. So with that, thank you so much for joining me tonight and looking at all of the video and giving me your comments and insights. The whole VOD of this session will be available on my Twitch channel once I kind of just cut out the, kind of starting and closing screens and kind of edit the video properly. If you want to go over it, and I'll probably do that quite soon in case there's anything we want to study again, or if you came in late and you want to see some of the discussion of the early stuff. So thank you very much for coming by. And at this point, I think we will shut that down. So, good luck making, enjoy the patch, have a good night or a good morning wherever you are.